Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Larry Langford. I'm 57 years old, and for most of my adult life, I gave everything to one place, Hollow Creek Manufacturing. 14 years as operations manager. 21 more on the floor before that. I knew every bolt, every belt, and every employee by name. I was the guy who trained the new hires, who stayed late to check the machines, who made sure everyone got home with the same number of fingers they started with. Then came the new CEO, Wesley Brandt. Wesley had been in charge for 7 months. Just long enough to learn how to pronounce lathe without sounding like a tourist. He came in with a surgically polished grin, leather-soled shoes that squeaked through the oil-stained hallways, and a Harvard MBA so fresh you could still smell the student loans. "I'm here to streamline operations," he said in our first meeting. "Efficiency is the new safety." That was my first red flag. The second came when he canceled our quarterly safety training, citing lost productivity. After that, warning signs disappeared, literally. Visual clutter, he called them. He even cut the replacement schedule for critical components in half. "Only replace if it breaks," he said. Not a second before. I took it up with him, first in private. I showed him the reports. The near misses. The risks. He smiled, nodded like I was a child interrupting his podcast, and waved me off. So I did what my old man taught me. What had kept me alive in this industry for nearly 4 decades, I documented everything. Every ignored maintenance request. Every safety violation. Every shortcut that would turn a machine into a meat grinder. The final straw came on a rainy Tuesday morning. I just filed an emergency maintenance report on Press 14, a hydraulic beast with a cracked safety shield and failing pressure gauges. I recommended shutting it down immediately. 2 hours later, I was called into the executive conference room. Wesley didn't waste time. "Larry, we appreciate your years of dedication, but your concerns are no longer aligned with our company vision. You're being let go." Not one of the executives, some of whom I'd mentored, looked me in the eye. They all stared at their notes like the truth might be hiding between the lines. My legacy, discarded like a bent nail. Walking out of that room felt like losing a limb. My identity, gone. My purpose, crushed. I boxed up my things in silence. A coffee mug for my daughter, a framed photo of my first crew, and a binder full of inspection reports nobody had wanted to read. When I handed over my badge to HR, Cheryl couldn't even look at me. But the look in Terry Baker's eyes, he'd been with me for 30 years, told me everything. Fear. Sadness. And worst of all, resignation. "They're running Press 14 full throttle now," he whispered. 3 shifts. No shutdowns. I left the building with my box, but not with my dignity. I sat in my truck for almost an hour, staring at the gates. Gates I'd opened before sunrise for 35 years. I could still hear the clang of the shop floor, the hiss of the welders, the laughter during midnight shifts. Now. I was just another guy they'd pushed out for caring too much. When I got home, my wife Lisa saw it all in my face. "They let you go, didn't they?" I nodded. "For doing my job." I didn't go to bed that night. I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of bourbon and a storm in my chest. They thought they could erase me. That firing me would silence what I knew. But what Wesley Brandt didn't realize was that my documentation didn't live on company servers. It lived in 2 external hard drives, a cloud folder under a fake name, and, most damning of all, a locked fireproof case in my garage. Every incident. Every maintenance request denied. Every photo I took of blocked fire exits, disconnected emergency stops, and leaking chemical drums. I'd been collecting it all since the day Brandt walked into Hollow Creek wearing that smug grin and said, "Accidents are just inefficiencies we haven't optimized yet." At 3 a.m., I opened my laptop, created a clean folder, and started assembling a dossier that could flatten a corporation. But I knew OSHA alone wouldn't be fast enough. Their process could take weeks, months even. People could get hurt before they even sent someone out. That's when I remembered Vanessa Hughes, the quiet but sharp accountant in finance. Before I left, she'd given me a look. Not pity, respect. And fear. So I sent her a message. They're running press 14 non-stop. I'm worried someone's going to die. Do you have copies of the maintenance logs? She replied 10 minutes later. Yes. And more. He's been falsifying incident reports. I didn't know what to do until now. That's when I realized Wesley's rot went deeper than cost-cutting. He was hiding injuries, paying people off in cash, and rerouting funds marked for safety into efficiency bonuses for execs. This wasn't mismanagement. It was criminal negligence. The next morning, I sat down across from Patricia Simmons, a regional OSHA inspector in Columbus, in the corner booth of a dusty diner. I showed her everything, time-stamped emails, photos, ignored third-party inspection reports. Even a recording of a meeting where Wesley mocked the safety committee. She flipped through my files for 2 hours, her expression hardening with each new revelation. I'll need to file for emergency inspection authorization, she said. But this could be bigger than just one plant. I leaned forward. Then you better move fast. Because that press is a time bomb. And there's a 22-year-old named Jason Parker running it who doesn't know the first thing about hydraulic pressure regulation. She nodded, stood up, and said, "We'll be in touch soon." As I walked back to my truck, I knew it wasn't enough to wait. I needed pressure. I needed publicity. I needed the truth out in the open. So I went to the one place Wesley wouldn't expect. The local paper. 24 hours later, I sat across from Olivia Chong, a journalist for the Hollow Creek Ledger. "You've got guts coming to me with this," she said, flipping through the photos. "But why now?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "Because someone's going to lose a limb. Or worse. And when that happens, the man who let it happen is going to blame me." And just as I said those words, my phone rang. It was Vanessa. Her voice shook. "Larry, there's been an accident." I don't remember hanging up. Just the sound of my blood in my ears. Vanessa's words echoed. "Jason, he's hurt bad. Press 14 exploded, something about a pressure seal failing. They're saying he might lose his arm." I gripped the edge of the table like it might stop the world from spinning. A kid. A kid I trained. A kid I warned them about. And now, he was in the back of an ambulance. My hands shook. But not with fear. With rage. I looked up at Olivia, the reporter, and said just one word. "Run it." By the time I reached Hollow Creek Hospital, Jason was already in surgery. His parents stood outside the ER doors, dazed. His mother recognized me immediately. "You're Larry. He said you tried to stop them." I nodded silently. I couldn't find the words. That night, Wesley Brandt held a press conference in front of the plant. His hair was perfect. His tie centered. His voice practiced. "We are deeply saddened by today's unfortunate accident involving one of our newer employees. We take safety very seriously. This appears to be a case of operator error." Operator error? I nearly crushed the remote in my hand. Then he added the twist. "We are also investigating potential sabotage by a recently terminated employee with a known vendetta." He never said my name. But he didn't have to. By 10 p.m., 2 officers were at my door. "Mr. Langford, we'd like to ask about your whereabouts this morning." I answered every question calmly. I had timestamps. Receipts. A GPS-tracked truck. And more than enough motive to sue him. The cops weren't convinced, but they weren't buying Brandt's act either. That night, I called the one man who could help me take this to war. Harold Glickman, retired labor attorney and former union shark. He answered after one ring. "You were right to call me," he said. "They're setting you up. But don't worry, we're not just going to defend you. We're going to bury them." The next day, we held our first war room meeting. Me, Harold, Vanessa from finance, and Terry from maintenance. "I've got every denied maintenance request going back 6 months, Vanessa said, dropping a USB onto Harold's desk. He signed off on each denial himself. Terry slid his phone across the table. I recorded the training Jason got before using the press. It was a joke. Brandt pointed to 2 buttons and walked out. Harold listened, fuming. This isn't just a cover-up. This is willful endangerment. I added, and Jason's just the first. If OSHA doesn't move fast, someone's going to die. Then Vanessa gave us the nuclear bomb. I found an email. The manufacturer inspected Press 14 last month. Their rep officially recommended shutting it down until the safety shield and pressure valve were replaced. And Wesley's response? Harold asked. She pulled it up and read it aloud. Too expensive. Find a workaround. The silence that followed was heavy. Harold stood. We have enough for OSHA. We have enough for criminal charges. But first, we clear your name. Then we go scorched earth. I sent every shred of evidence to Patricia Simmons at OSHA. She fast-tracked a surprise inspection. 2 mornings later, 6 federal inspectors descended on Hollow Creek. Wesley Brandt looked like someone had slapped him with a lawsuit. They shut down Press 14 on the spot. 37 violations in the first 4 hours. By day 3. Over 70. And while OSHA tore apart Brandt's fake empire, the Hollow Creek Ledger dropped a bombshell front page. Whistleblower fired, worker loses arm, inside the rot at Hollow Creek. There was a photo of Jason in his hospital bed. Arm gone. Face pale. His quote. Larry Langford tried to stop this. If they'd listened to him, I'd still have both arms. That story spread like wildfire. National outlets picked it up. People protested outside the plant gates. Brandt tried to salvage it with another press conference, but this time, reporters were ready. Why did you ignore a manufacturer's safety recommendation? Is it true you falsified incident reports? Are you blaming an injured kid for a machine you refused to repair? His smile cracked. So did his voice. That afternoon, the board called an emergency meeting. And by sundown, Wesley Brandt was suspended, pending investigation. It wasn't over yet. But the revenge had begun. Wesley Brandt had been suspended, but I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Because that smug bastard had already tried to drag my name through the mud. And he'd do it again if it meant saving his own skin. I knew how men like him operated. They didn't build anything. They just climbed on the backs of people who did. So while OSHA's inspectors peeled back every layer of the plant's safety violations, I got to work on the other front, the legal war. Harold filed an official defamation suit against Brandt for falsely accusing me of sabotage. We also sent notice of intent to sue the company for wrongful termination and whistleblower retaliation. But it wasn't about money. It was about pulling every dirty thread until the whole suit he wore unraveled. And then something unexpected happened. I got a phone call, from Gregory Nash. Greg was the son of Hollow Creek's original founder, Walter Nash, the man who hired me straight out of high school. Greg had sold his stake years ago and moved to Chicago, but apparently, the board reached out to him in a panic. They needed a figurehead to calm the fire. Larry, he said on the call, we need someone who knows this company. Who the workers trust. The board asked me to return, but I want you beside me. I laughed bitterly. After what they let happen. I didn't say it would be easy, Greg replied. But Wesley left a mess. Half the lines are shut down. Morale is in the basement. The town's up in arms. And OSHA's talking about permanent closure unless we overhaul everything. And you want me to what, come fix it? I want you to save it. I hung up without agreeing. But the idea gnawed at me. This was the place where I built a life. Where I trained men like Terry. Where kids like Jason trusted me with their safety. If I didn't go back, someone like Wesley would. Again. That night, I visited Jason in the hospital. He was awake, recovering slowly, learning how to function with a bandaged stump where his arm had been. I'm sorry, I said, choking on the words. He shook his head. Not your fault. You tried, Mr. Langford. You were the only one who did. We sat in silence a while. Then he asked, why didn't they listen? I didn't know how to explain greed to a 23-year-old who still believed in work ethics and promotions. But I did know this, I wasn't done. The next morning, I met with Greg at Hollow Creek. I'll come back, I said. On 2 conditions. Name them. 1. Every safety violation gets fixed before production restarts. No exceptions. No shortcuts. Agreed. 2. Jason Parker gets full medical coverage, a paid leave package, and a guaranteed job when he's ready, if he wants it. Greg nodded without hesitation. Done. And just like that, I walked back into Hollow Creek. Not as the operations manager. But as Director of Operational Safety and Compliance. With full authority to override any decision that compromised safety. The first order of business, shut down the plant. Fully. Cold silence replaced the roar of machines as we installed guards, replaced valves, and reinforced emergency systems. Terry handed me a checklist of over 70 red zones that needed overhaul. I signed off on every single one, personally. I walked the floor every morning. I looked people in the eye. I told them, this is going to be different. We're bringing back pride. Morale didn't shift overnight. But it started. And then came the big day. Greg held a company-wide meeting. All 300 employees gathered in the production hall. The new board, now including 2 former floor workers and a safety consultant, sat behind him. This company lost its way, Greg began. And we paid the price. He paused, letting the silence linger. But we're here to earn back your trust. Then he dropped the bombshell. Effective immediately, Wesley Brandt has been terminated for cause. And based on new evidence of willful negligence, we are cooperating with the district attorney in pursuing criminal charges. The workers erupted in gasps, whispers, then applause. Then Greg gestured to me. From now on, this plant will be led by someone who built it, not someone who exploited it. Larry Langford is your new director of safety. And he answers to no one but the board, and you. That applause. It wasn't polite. It was real. It was workers rising to their feet for a man they thought was gone for good. And at the back of the crowd, Jason Parker stood with one arm in a sling, nodding. But this wasn't the end. The final blow had yet to fall. Because while I was rebuilding Hollow Creek, Wesley Brandt was about to face something he couldn't spin, dodge, or delegate. Justice. 3 months had passed since the accident. Hollow Creek had been rebuilt from the inside out. OSHA lifted their sanctions. Production resumed, safely this time. And for the first time in years, workers actually smiled when they clocked in. But the man who caused all the damage. He was still out there. And he wasn't done yet. I got a letter, hand-delivered by courier. Embossed paper. Legal threats. Wesley Brandt was suing me for defamation, conspiracy, and professional sabotage. The letter read like a tantrum in a tuxedo. He was trying to flip the narrative. Harold, My attorney wasn't surprised. It's classic counterstrike. Brandt knows the criminal case is coming, so he's throwing mud. Hoping something sticks. But I've been cleared. The cops dropped the sabotage charge. The press printed Jason's testimony. OSHA confirmed over 70 violations. Harold nodded. Doesn't matter to men like him. They weaponize chaos. Stall the truth. Exhaust you. I looked down at the summons and said, then let's make sure he regrets it. A week later, we received word from the district attorney's office. Brandt had officially been indicted on 4 counts, including criminal negligence, falsifying safety records, retaliation against a whistleblower, and most damningly, reckless endangerment resulting in permanent disability. He was arrested outside his condo in Chicago and released on bail. The same evening, I got a call from Olivia Chong, the reporter who had helped expose everything. "We're doing a follow-up," she said. Jason agreed to go on record. He wants the world to know what Brandt cost him. The interview aired the next day. Jason sat in his hospital room, his left sleeve pinned up. I was 23. I had a future in engineering. I wanted to move out, start a life. Now I'm learning to butter toast with my right hand. He paused. But I'm alive. Because someone stood up before it was too late. Larry Langford fought for us. And they fired him for it. The backlash was instant. Employees who'd stayed silent began submitting anonymous statements to the DA. Former executives began cooperating to avoid their own liability. OSHA launched a second investigation, this time into Wesley Brandt's other former companies. But it wasn't the legal blow that truly broke him. It was what happened inside Hollow Creek. You see, the board had gone further than just firing him. They froze his golden parachute, voided his severance, and launched a civil suit to claw back the bonuses he awarded himself for efficiency gains. Turns out, many of those bonuses were tied to fake safety metrics he cooked up by suppressing reports. Vanessa had found them all. Every spreadsheet. Every manipulation. He hadn't just endangered people. He profited from it. The final twist. An email. One he didn't know we had. Vanessa recovered it from an auto-archived folder. It was from the press manufacturer, warning that continuing to run the damaged hydraulic system could cause a catastrophic mechanical failure likely to result in amputation or death. Wesley's response. Noted. Run it anyway. We handed that email directly to the prosecution. Even Harold, normally unshakable, closed the folder and said, "That's game over." When Wesley showed up to his arraignment, the cameras were waiting. He looked smaller somehow. Less polished. That crisp, smug confidence. Gone. When the judge read the charges, he tried to act like it was all a misunderstanding. But then something unexpected happened. Jason Parker walked into the courtroom. He didn't say a word. He just stood at the back, watching. Wesley saw him. Flinched. And for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not fear of prison. Fear of being seen for what he really was. After the hearing, Wesley cornered me in the parking lot. "You happy now, Langford?" he spat. "You destroyed everything I built." I stared at him, calm. "You didn't build anything, Wesley. You just buried what better men created." "You think this is over?" he hissed. "I'll beat this. I'll sue you for everything you have." I leaned in. "You already lost the one thing that mattered. Your illusion of control." I walked away before he could answer. Some men never learn. 3 months later, I stood in the back of a packed courtroom as the verdict came down. On the charge of criminal negligence resulting in serious bodily harm, we find the defendant, Wesley Brandt, guilty. There was no reaction from Wesley. No outburst. No protest. He just stood there, jaw clenched, eyes hollow, as the sentence followed. 4 years in state prison. 2 years probation. Banned from holding executive positions in any industrial operation for a minimum of 10 years. Outside, reporters swarmed. But I didn't speak to them. Not yet. Instead, I went to see Jason. He was walking now, still adjusting to the prosthetic arm, but standing straighter than I'd seen in months. When he opened the door, I handed him a folder. "What's this?" he asked. "Your full compensation package. Retroactive pay, top-tier rehab coverage, and, if you want it, an apprenticeship in mechanical safety design." His eyes lit up. "You serious?" I smiled. "Every accident we prevent moving forward. I want your name on it." He flipped open the folder, quiet for a moment, then said, "You didn't have to do this." "Yes," I replied. "I did. Because this was never about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding. About restoring something sacred." Back at Hollow Creek, the plant hummed again, but this time, not like a machine grinding through bodies. It breathed. Clean. Protected. Respected. Greg Nash kept his promise. Every line had backup fail-safes, redundant guards, emergency drills, and union reps with real authority. Production was up. Accidents were down, 0, in fact. And I was no longer operations manager. I was something better. The man who made sure nobody else paid the price for a spreadsheet. They offered me a bonus. I refused. Instead, I had them set up a safety scholarship fund in Jason Parker's name, for local high school grads pursuing industrial safety, mechanical engineering, or environmental science. The first recipient? Jason's younger cousin, Elijah. Bright kid. Wants to design safer robotics. As for Wesley, he tried to appeal. Failed. Tried to sue me again. The court dismissed it, with prejudice. Last I heard, he's been assigned to janitorial duty in the state penitentiary's laundry wing. No assistance. No bonuses. No more corners to cut. One morning, while walking the shop floor, I found Terry watching the line with a clipboard. He looked at me, grinning. "Feels like the old days again." "No," I said, smiling. "Feels better. Because we didn't just fix a plant. We reclaimed a purpose." In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.